her fingers wrapped tight around the bouquet of white roses. Roses she hadn't picked, a dress she hadn't chosen, a groom she didn't love. She'd inherited her mother's rich brown skin and full lips, her African mother, who'd been smart enough to divorce Gerald Grayson right after Amaya graduated high school. Her mother had escaped back to Kenya, had begged Amaya to come with her, but Amaya had stayed, and now she was paying the price for that loyalty. The officiant's voice droned on, something about sacred bonds and eternal commitment. She wasn't really listening. Her mind was somewhere else, on a boy who'd broken her heart 16 years ago, on a secret that could destroy him, on the 6 months of hell that awaited her after she said 2 simple words, "I do." She could feel Yanwu beside her, his presence suffocating. He stood tall, proud, wearing that charming smile he showed the world, the smile that would disappear the moment they were alone. Her stomach twisted. "If anyone objects to this union," the officiant announced, his voice echoing through the grand hall, "speak now or forever hold your peace." Silence blanketed the room, a room filled with Seoul's most dangerous men, crime bosses, enforcers, killers in expensive suits. The Kang family didn't tolerate interruptions. Nobody would dare. The double doors burst open with a bang that made her jump. Her heart stopped. She'd know that walk anywhere. Confident, dangerous, like he owned not just the room, but the entire damn world. Kang Ji-min. He strode down the aisle, and God, he was still the most beautiful man she'd ever seen. Tall, so tall she'd always have to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Broad shoulders beneath a dark shirt, the top buttons undone just enough to show the curve of his throat. Long hair loose around his face, wild and untamed. No! Panic clawed up her throat. He's supposed to be in America. What is he doing here? Gasps rippled through the crowd, heads turned, whispers started. His eyes found hers across the distance, dark and intense, and something in her chest squeezed painfully. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Yanwu's fingers dug into her wrist. What the hell? Ji-min stopped right in front of the altar, 3 feet away. Close enough that she could see the fury blazing in his eyes, the tension in his jaw, the way his hands were clenched into fists at his sides. When he spoke, his voice cut through the chaos like a knife. "She's pregnant for me." The world exploded. Shouts erupted around them, chairs scraped, someone swore loudly. Amaya's mind went blank. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. What? She stared at him, at the man she'd been in love with since she was 16, the man who'd humiliated her in front of their entire school, the man she hadn't seen in years, and tried to make sense of what he just said. Pregnant? For him? "I'm not," she whispered, but her voice disappeared into the chaos. Jimin's gaze never left hers, and what she saw there made her knees weak. Desperation, raw and unfiltered. He was lying. She knew he was lying, but why? Thank you so much to everyone who's already subscribed. Your support means everything. If you're new here, I'm glad you found this story. Welcome. Let's continue. Amaya looked at Jimin, finding her voice, her heart hammering. "I'm not pregnant for you." Jimin had known this would cause chaos. He'd counted on it. What he hadn't counted on was how seeing her in that wedding dress would gut him. White silk that hugged her curves, making her dark skin glow under the chandelier lights. Her hair was swept up, exposing the elegant curve of her neck, a neck he'd imagined kissing 1,000 times. She was breathtaking, and she was about to marry his bastard of a brother. Not if he had anything to say about it. He pulled out the folded paper from his pocket, the test he'd forged 2 days ago. "Then how do you explain this?" He handed it to his father. Kang Dae-hyun snatched it, his face turning purple as he read. "Come with me, now, both of you." "Father," Yeonwoo started. "I said now." Kang Dae-hyun's voice boomed. Jimin didn't wait. He turned and walked toward the side exit, feeling Amaya's confused gaze burning into his back. Good. Let her be confused. Better confused than trapped. They walked into one of the rooms. The room was cold, sterile, just like the man who stood at its center. Dae-hyun slammed the door behind them. "Explain yourself." "I think the test speaks for itself," Jimin said, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. "This is bullshit," Yeonwoo spat. He turned to their father. "Amaya hasn't seen Jimin in years. He's lying." "Am I?" Jimin raised an eyebrow. Dae-hyun's eyes narrowed. "If you're lying to sabotage this wedding, then what?" Jimin straightened, meeting his father's glare head-on. "What will you do, father?" "You'll step down as head of the Kang Empire, and you'll leave Korea for a year, minimum." The room went silent. Yeonwoo's lips curved into a smile. He thought he'd won. Jimin didn't hesitate. "Fine." "What?" Yeonwoo's smile faltered. "I agree to your terms," Jimin said. He pushed off the wall and headed for the door. "But I'm taking her with me." He didn't wait for a response. He walked back into the hall where Amaya stood frozen, her bouquet now crushed in her trembling hands. Their eyes met. He crossed the distance in long strides, and before anyone could react, he scooped her up into his arms, bridal style. She gasped, "What are you? Put me down!" "Not a chance," he muttered. The hall erupted again. Guests shot to their feet. Someone shouted his name. He didn't care. He carried her down the aisle, past the shocked faces, past the expensive floral arrangements, past the life she'd been about to throw away. "Jimin, stop!" she hissed, squirming in his arms. "Everyone's watching!" "Let them watch." He kicked the doors open and stepped out into the afternoon sun. His car was already waiting, engine running. Tae-sung stood beside it, holding the door open. "Boss," Tae-sung greeted with a slight nod. Jimin slid into the back seat with Amaya still in his arms. The door slammed shut. The car pulled away. Amaya shoved at his chest. "Let me go!" He set her down on the seat beside him, but kept his arm across the back, blocking her escape. She whirled on him, eyes blazing. "How the hell am I pregnant when I haven't even seen you in years? What is wrong with you? Do you know what you just did?" "I just saved you from making the greatest mistake of your life. Yeonwoo is not the kind of man you'd want to spend the rest of your life with." She scoffed, her chest heaving. "And you are?" He looked at her, at the fire in her eyes, the flush in her cheeks, the way her lips parted when she was angry. God, he'd missed her. "Why not?" he said quietly. "You love me." Her expression crumbled for just a second before fury took over. "You are the worst man I could ever get involved with." That stung, but he deserved it. "Why are you still mad over something that happened over a decade ago?" "Why wouldn't I be?" Her voice cracked. "You humiliated me in front of the whole school." "You walked up to an 18-year-old you barely knew and confessed your love. I was taken by surprise. I repeated it without thinking. I didn't mean to hurt you." "You didn't just say no," she shot back, eyes glistening. "You said you'd never be in love with me." Then I wondered, what was all the care for? You were always there whenever I needed help, and I caught you staring at me so many times. Jimin ran a hand through his hair, frustration bleeding through. "I was only being nice. He sighed. "I've apologized several times." "Your apologies don't erase the mockery and humiliation I felt then." Tears welled in her eyes. "Now you're trying to ruin my life again." "I'm trying to save it." She stared at him, tears spilling over. "I don't need you to save me." Before he could respond, she reached for the door handle. Maya, don't! But she was already out, stumbling in her heels on the gravel driveway. The car had barely stopped moving. Damn it, Jimin muttered, shoving his door open. Amaya's heart pounded as she rushed back toward the hall. Her dress tangled around her legs, the hem already dirty from the gravel. She didn't care. She had to fix this, had to protect him. If this comes out, Jimin loses everything. Her father's words echoed in her mind, cold and calculating. The evidence, the truth about Jimin's parentage. One word from her father, and Jimin's world would collapse. She burst through the hall doors, breathless. Everyone turned to stare. The whispers grew louder. The officiants stood frozen at the altar. Yeonwoo's expression was unreadable, but his eyes were dark with something that made her skin crawl. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely steady. She forced herself to walk down the aisle, each step heavier than the last. You all know how Jimin plays too much, always has. A few people chuckled uncomfortably. Yeonwoo stepped forward, his hand extended. Is it a lie, then? She took his hand, ignoring how cold his fingers felt against hers. Yes. I haven't seen him in years. His smile returned, that charming public smile. I knew it. He turned to the officiant. Please, proceed. The priest cleared his throat and continued. Amaya barely heard the words. Her mind was still in that car, still seeing the look on Jimin's face. I'm sorry, she thought. I'm so sorry. Jimin stood at the entrance, watching her walk back to his brother. Taesung appeared at his side. Boss, we should go. Not yet. You'll lose everything if you stay. I already did. His jaw clenched as he watched Amaya take Yeonwoo's hand. The moment she walked back in there, Taesung said nothing. The officiant's voice carried across the hall. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Jimin turned away before he could see them kiss. He'd caused enough damage for one day. Let's go, he said quietly. Amaya sat in the back of the limousine now, Yeonwoo beside her. The wedding was over. The reception had been a blur of fake smiles and congratulations. You embarrassed me today, Yeonwoo said quietly. She turned to look at him. His charming smile was gone. In its place was something cold, dangerous. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know he was going to. You didn't know? His laugh was bitter. My own brother crashes my wedding, claims you're pregnant with his child, and you didn't know? I swear, I haven't seen him in... His hand shot out, gripping her chin. Not hard enough to bruise, but firm enough to make her freeze. Listen carefully, he said. His voice soft, deadly. You're my wife now, mine. And if I ever see you so much as look at Jimin again, there will be consequences. Understood? Fear slithered down her spine. This wasn't the Yeonwoo who'd proposed. This wasn't the man who'd promised her father he'd take care of her. This was someone else entirely. Understood? He repeated, his grip tightening. Yes, she breathed. He released her, leaning back with that smile returning. Good. I'm glad we understand each other. The next morning, Amaya's phone woke her. News alert. Kang Ji-min steps down as head of Kang Empire, leaves Korea. Her stomach dropped. She scrolled frantically through the article. Following yesterday's disruption at his brother's wedding, Kang Ji-min has officially forfeited his position as head of the Kang Enterprise and will be leaving Korea. No, she whispered. No, no. This was her fault. He'd lost everything because of her. She threw off the covers, grabbed her phone and called his number. It rang and rang. Please pick up. Please. Maya. His voice sent a rush of relief through her. Jimin, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it would... Don't apologize. But you lost. I knew the stakes when I did it. I hope you know what you're doing getting involved with my brother. She bit her lip, tears burning. I wish you a happy married life, Maya. The line went dead. She stared at her phone, his words echoing. Happy married life. If only he knew. Jimin stood in his mansion, throwing clothes into a suitcase. Taesung leaned against the doorframe. You're really going through with this? I don't have a choice. You always have a choice, boss. Jimin paused, a shirt halfway into the bag. She made her choice. She went back to him. Maybe she had her reasons. I don't care about her reasons. He resumed packing, movements sharp, angry. I need her safe. Taesung was quiet for a moment. So what do you want me to do? Jimin zipped the suitcase closed and turned to face his right-hand man. You're not coming with me. What? I need you to stay here. Look after Amaya. Jimin's expression hardened. I don't trust my brother. I don't trust my father, and I sure as hell don't trust her father. Protect her from afar. If she gets into trouble, call me. All you've done is protect her. Why can't she see that? It doesn't matter. Jimin grabbed his suitcase. Just do what I asked. 3 days later, Jimin boarded a plane to the United States. He took a window seat, staring out at Seoul below as the plane lifted off. Somewhere down there, Amaya was starting her life with Yunwoo. His hands clenched into fists. He'd give her space, time, let her figure things out, and when she needed him, because she would need him, he'd burn the whole damn world down to get to her. 1 week earlier, Amaya sat across from her father in his office, her coffee growing cold. A marriage proposal? She repeated, sure she'd heard wrong. Gerald Grayson leaned back in his leather chair, completely calm. Kang Yun-woo wants to marry you. Her laugh came out strangled. That's... Dad, I barely know him, and I don't... You don't have a choice. The words hit like a slap. Excuse me? Her father stood, walking to his safe. He pulled out a manila folder and dropped it on the desk between them. Open it. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. Inside were documents, DNA tests, birth certificates, medical records. Her eyes widened as she read. This says Jimin isn't Kang Dae-hyun's biological son. Correct. Her father's voice was cold, clinical. I'm a fixer for the Kang family. I know everyone's secrets. The folder slipped from her fingers. Who's his real father? No one knows, but here's what you need to understand. He leaned forward, hands flat on the desk. If this comes out, Yun-woo takes over the empire anyway. So you either protect Jimin and marry Yun-woo, or you watch Jimin get destroyed. Your choice. You're bluffing. He pulled out his phone, finger hovering over a contact. One call. That's all it takes. One call to the press, and by tomorrow morning, Jimin loses everything. Don't! The word burst out before she could stop it. Then we have an agreement. Amaya's mind raced. Jimin was the main force of the Kang Empire, feared, respected. His reputation made enemies think twice, but if this got out, if his position became invalid, he'd lose his respect, protection, his resources, everything. And when someone that powerful falls, their enemies don't hesitate. Why Yun-woo? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. Why does he want to marry me? He's offering me the position of underboss in exchange. Her father smiled. Plus, I think he enjoys the idea of taking something his brother wanted. 5 days before the wedding, Amaya sat across from Yanwu at an upscale restaurant, barely touching her food. He looked every bit the gentleman, well-dressed, charming smile, attentive. But there was something in his eyes, something that made her skin crawl. "You've barely eaten," he observed. "Not very hungry." "Wedding nerves?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Understandable. It's a big step." "Why do you want to marry me?" The question came out before she could stop it. He set down his fork, studying her. "You're beautiful, kind, everything a man could want." She didn't believe him. "Plus," he continued, voice dropping, "it'll be interesting to have something my brother wanted but couldn't have." Her blood ran cold. "I don't know what you mean." "Don't play stupid, Amaya." He reached across the table, taking her hand. His grip was just a little too tight. He leaned closer. "I've watched you for years. The way you used to look at him. The way your face would light up when someone mentioned his name." He leaned closer. "But he rejected you, didn't he? Made it very clear in front of everyone. So you'll marry me instead, and you'll be a good wife, because if you're not—" He squeezed her hand hard enough to hurt. "We understand each other?" She nodded, unable to speak. "Good." He released her and went back to his meal like nothing had happened. Present day, 3 months after the wedding. Amaya walked through the shopping district, shoulders hunched, eyes down. 3 months. It felt like 3 years. She'd lost weight, stopped caring about her appearance, stopped caring about much of anything. Amaya? She looked up to see Tae-sung standing a few feet away, surprise on his face. Relief flooded through her. "Tae-sung, hi." He approached slowly, his eyes scanning her face with concern. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." The lie came automatically now. "Just getting some air. How are you?" "Good." He was still studying her, and she fought the urge to look away. "Have you heard from Jimin?" "I texted him a while back. He didn't reply." "He's been busy, but he's doing well." "Good. That's good. I'll tell him I said hi if you talk to him." "I will." Tae-sung hesitated. "Everything okay with you? You look—" "I'm fine," she said quickly. "Really, Yeonwoo is great, you know? He's just misunderstood." The lie tasted bitter. Tae-sung's expression said he didn't believe her, but he nodded. "If you say so. Take care of yourself, Amaya." "You too." She walked away before he could ask anything else. When she got home, Yeonwoo was waiting. "Where were you?" "Just out, getting some air." He stood, crossing the room in 3 strides. "I saw you." Her stomach dropped. What? Meeting with Tae-sung? Jimin's dog. He grabbed her arm, fingers digging in. "What were you planning?" "Nothing. I ran into him by accident." "Liar." He shoved her hard. She stumbled back, hitting the wall, pain shooting through her shoulder. "Please," she whispered. "I wasn't planning anything. I swear." He pulled his belt free, the leather sliding through the loops with a hiss that made her flinch. "Yeonwoo, please. What did you discuss?" "Nothing. Just, he asked how I was, and I said I was fine." The belt cracked against the wall beside her head. She screamed, covering her face. "If I ever catch you near him again, it won't be the wall. Understood?" "Yes," she sobbed. "Yes, I understand." He threw the belt aside and stormed out. Amaya slid down the wall, her whole body shaking. She pulled out her phone with trembling hands and called her father. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered when he answered. "Dad, please. I need more time. I'm close to getting enough evidence against Yeonwoo to take over the empire. Just hold on a little longer." Did you not hear what I just said? He threatened me with a... You're not the first woman to get hit by her husband. His voice was utterly devoid of sympathy. Stay put or your true lover's life goes down the drain. The line went dead. Amaya sat there on the floor, alone, and cried until she couldn't anymore. That night, Amaya stood under the shower until the water ran cold. She could still feel Yanwu's fingers on her arm, could still hear the crack of the belt. You're not the first woman to get hit by her husband. Her father's words wouldn't stop echoing. She turned off the water and stepped out, avoiding her reflection in the mirror. She didn't want to see what she'd become. A soft knock made her jump. "Ma'am," one of the servants. "Mr. Kang requests your presence in the main living room." Amaya's stomach twisted with dread. "I'll be right there." She dressed quickly and made her way downstairs, each step heavier than the last. Yanwu stood in the living room. He wasn't alone. A woman sat on the couch, stunning, with long dark hair and a dress that screamed expensive. She looked up when Amaya entered, her smile cold and assessing. "Amaya," Yanwu said pleasantly, like he hadn't just terrorized her hours ago. "I'd like you to meet Ye Ri." The woman stood, extending a manicured hand. "It's lovely to finally meet you." Amaya shook it automatically, confusion clouding her thoughts. "Nice to meet you. Are you a business associate, or—" "Ye Ri will be living with us," Yanwu interrupted. Silence fell like a hammer. "I'm sorry, what?" "She'll be staying here, indefinitely." He walked over to Ye Ri, sliding his arm around her waist in a gesture that made Amaya's stomach turn. "I hope that's not a problem." His mistress. He'd brought his mistress into their home. "Yanwu," Amaya started, her voice shaking. "Ye Ri would like your room, the master bedroom. I think she deserves it, don't you?" Amaya stared at him, at the cruel amusement in his eyes, at Ye Ri's barely concealed triumph. "You can't be serious." Completely serious. He turned to the servants hovering nearby. "Move Mrs. Kang's things to the guest room down the hall. Ye Ri will take the master." "Right away, sir," one murmured, not meeting Amaya's eyes. They scattered like frightened birds. "I'm your wife," Amaya said, hating how her voice trembled. "Yes, and as my wife you'll make our guest comfortable, won't you?" The threat was clear as crystal. Amaya's nails dug into her palms. Every instinct screamed at her to fight back, to refuse, to run. But Jimin's face flashed in her mind. The evidence her father held. What would happen if it got out? "Of course," she said quietly. "Welcome, Ye Ri." The next 2 weeks stripped away whatever dignity Amaya had left. Yanwu didn't just move his mistress in, he turned Amaya into their servant. "Amaya, bring us wine." "Amaya, Ye Ri's cold, bring her a blanket." "Amaya, we're hungry, make something." She did it all with gritted teeth and tears she refused to shed in front of them. The household staff watched with pity but said nothing. This was the Kang family. Speaking up meant losing your job, or worse. One night, Amaya was in her new room, barely bigger than a closet, when she heard laughter in the living room. Loud, mocking laughter. Something pulled her toward it. She stepped out, moving closer to the sound. The TV was on, and what she saw made her blood turn to ice. It was her, 16-year-old her, standing in the school courtyard. "Jimin, I like you. I've liked you for a long time." Jimin's voice, distant and shocked. "I'll never be in love with you." Laughter from the students around her teenage self. Someone had recorded it, posted it online years ago, and now Yanwu was playing it for entertainment. "Oh my God," Ye Ri gasped between laughs. "She was so pathetic." "Desperate," Yanwu agreed, swirling his wine. "That's my wife. Threw herself at my brother and got humiliated in front of everyone. The internet never forgets. Amaya's vision blurred. She walked forward and turned off the TV. The laughter stopped. Yanwu's expression darkened. "What do you think you're doing?" "I'm going to bed," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "Turn it back on." "No." She turned and walked toward her room, heart pounding. "Amaya!" His footsteps thundered behind her. She reached her door, slipped inside, and locked it just as he arrived. He pounded on the wood. "Open this door right now!" She sat on the bed, hands pressed over her ears, body shaking. The pounding continued, then stopped. She lowered her hands slowly, listening to the silence. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Hey, Maya, are you good?" Her breath caught. That nickname, that casual tone. Ji-min. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she typed back with trembling fingers. "I'm all right. Hope you're good?" 3 dots appeared immediately. "I'm not. I miss you." A sob escaped her throat. She covered her mouth, reading the words over and over. Another message came through. "How's he treating you?" She started typing the truth. "You warned me. I should have listened. He's—" But her father's face flashed in her mind. The threats, the evidence that could destroy Ji-min. She deleted it and typed instead, "He doesn't act like the Yanwu we all know at all." That's a shocker. "If you need anything, I'm just a call away. Good night, Maya." Amaya stared at the screen until it went dark. Then she lay down and cried herself to sleep, clutching the phone like a lifeline. The abuse escalated. Yanwu found new ways to break her down, made her eat after they finished, from whatever scraps remained, had her clean their room while they lounged in bed. He hit her when his coffee was too cold, hit her when dinner wasn't perfect, hit her when she looked at him the wrong way. And she took it all in silence. Because across the ocean, Ji-min was safe, building his life, free from the scandal that would destroy him. That had to be enough. 3 months after that encounter with Tae-sung, Amaya stood before her closet mirror. She'd lost so much weight her clothes hung loose. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Bruises, carefully hidden, marked her arms. The woman in the reflection was a stranger. Her phone buzzed with a notification. Kang Dae-hyun's 70th birthday celebration, this weekend. Her stomach dropped. She'd have to go, play the dutiful wife in front of the entire Kang Empire. She touched the bruise on her ribs, wincing. Just survive, she told herself. That's all you have to do. Just survive. Saturday came too quickly. Amaya stood in front of her closet trying to find something appropriate, something that would hide the bruises, something that wouldn't give Yanwu a reason to. Wear the red dress, Yanwu said from the doorway. She jumped, hand flying to her chest. She hadn't heard him come in. The red one? It was fitted, beautiful, and it would show every bruise on her arms. Did I stutter? His voice was pleasant, dangerous. No, I thought maybe the black one with the long sleeves would be more appropriate for the red dress, Amaya. He smiled. I want everyone to see how beautiful my wife is. The threat was clear. If she argued, there would be consequences. Of course, she whispered. The ride to Dae-hyun's estate was silent. Amaya sat as far from Yanwu as the back seat allowed, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She'd managed to apply enough makeup to cover the finger-shaped bruises on her upper arms, but her hands still trembled. Remember to smile, Yanwu said as they pulled up to the mansion. And stay close to me. I don't want you wandering off. The party was already in full swing when they arrived. The Kang estate was massive, all marble floors and crystal chandeliers filled with Seoul's most powerful and dangerous people. Crime bosses, politicians, business moguls, all of them connected to the Kang Empire in one way or another. Music played softly in the background. Servers moved through the crowd with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. It looked like any other high society birthday celebration. But Amaya knew better. These people were monsters in expensive clothes. Kang Da-hyun stood near the center of the grand ballroom, accepting well wishes and gifts from his guests. He looked exactly like Amaya remembered. Cold eyes, calculating smile, completely in control. Yeon-woo's hand settled on the small of her back, pressing just hard enough to hurt. A reminder. She smiled, nodded, played the role of the happy wife. Inside, she was screaming. An hour passed in a blur of fake pleasantries and forced conversations. Yeon-woo kept her close, his hand never leaving her waist. Occasionally, he'd introduce her to someone important, and she'd smile and say all the right things. "You must be so proud of your husband, taking over the empire so smoothly." "Very proud," Amaya lied. "And you look radiant. Marriage clearly agrees with you." If only they knew. They were standing near the champagne fountain when Yeon-woo leaned down and whispered in her ear, "I need to speak with some associates. Stay right here. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone unless I'm with you." "Okay," she said quietly. "I mean it, Amaya." His fingers dug into her side. "A consequence." "I understand." He released her and walked away, leaving her alone by the fountain. Amaya took a shaky breath, trying to calm her racing heart. Another 30 minutes passed. The ballroom was getting more crowded. More champagne was flowing. The music grew louder. Amaya stayed exactly where Yeon-woo had left her, not daring to move. Then someone called out, "Everyone, gather around, the birthday toast." The crowd moved toward the center of the room, where Da-hyun stood with Yeon-woo beside him. Yeon-woo's eyes found hers across the room. He beckoned her over with a slight movement of his head. She made her way through the crowd, her heart sinking with every step. When she reached him, his hand immediately clamped around her wrist. "Took you long enough." "I was waiting where you told me." "Shh." His grip tightened painfully. "Smile. Father's about to speak." Da-hyun raised his glass and began. Amaya's mind was nowhere near the ballroom. Her attention returned when she heard, "And of course, he's also recently married the lovely Amaya, a beautiful addition to our family." All eyes turned to her. Amaya's cheeks burned as she forced herself to smile. Yeon-woo's fingers were cutting off her circulation now. She could feel her hand going numb. "To family," Da-hyun said, raising his glass higher. "To prosperity, and to the continued success of the Kang Empire." "To the Kang Empire," everyone echoed, raising their glasses. As the toast ended and conversations resumed, Yeon-woo pulled Amaya closer, his breath hot against her ear. "You see how perfect this is? Everyone thinks we're the ideal couple." His grip twisted painfully. "Yeon-woo, you're hurting me." "Good. Maybe you'll remember to move faster next time I call you." She tugged harder, panic rising. "Let go." "Or what?" He yanked her closer, making her stumble. "What are you going to do?" Several people nearby glanced over, curiosity on their faces. Amaya's heart pounded. She was making a scene. He was going to make her pay for this later. She stopped struggling, going still in his grip. "That's better," Yeon-woo said, satisfaction in his voice. "Now smile and—" The massive double doors at the entrance burst open. Amaya felt a shift in the air, a change in the energy of the room. She turned toward the entrance, and her heart stopped. Jimin strode into the ballroom, and every head began to turn. He moved through the crowd with that same dangerous confidence she remembered. People stepped aside automatically, making way for him even as they whispered to each other. His eyes swept across the room, searching. Then they found her, and locked on. Amaya watched his expression change, saw the exact moment he took in her appearance, the weight loss, the hollow cheeks, the dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. His jaw clenched. His gaze dropped to where Yanwoo's hand was wrapped around her wrist, his knuckles white from the force of his grip, to the way she stood slightly off balance from where Yanwoo had yanked her. Something dark and terrible crossed Jimin's face. "Well, well," Kang Dae-hyun's voice carried across the ballroom. "My prodigal son returns. 6 months early, I might add." Jimin didn't respond, didn't even look at his father. His eyes stayed locked on Amaya and Yanwoo. He started walking toward them. The crowd parted. "Brother," Yanwoo said, his voice dripping with false warmth. His grip on Amaya's wrist tightened further, making her bite back a gasp. "What a surprise to see you." "We weren't expecting you," Yanwoo continued, pulling Amaya against his side possessively. "Weren't you supposed to stay away for a year?" Jimin stopped a few feet away. Up close, Amaya could see it all. The fury barely contained beneath his calm exterior, the way his hands were clenched into fists, the muscle jumping in his jaw. "Let her go," Jimin said quietly. "Excuse me?" "Her wrist. Let her go." Yanwoo laughed. "She's my wife. I'll touch her however I want." Wrong answer. Jimin moved. 1 second he was standing still. The next his fist connected with Yanwoo's jaw with a sickening crack that echoed through the ballroom. Women screamed, men shouted, glasses shattered on the marble floor. "Jimin!" Kang Dae-hyun's voice boomed. "Stop this immediately!" But Jimin wasn't listening. He was on Yanwoo in a heartbeat, grabbing him by the collar before he could fall and slamming another fist into his face. And another, and another. "You don't touch her." Each word came with another devastating blow. Yanwoo tried to fight back, swinging wildly, but he was no match for Jimin's rage. Jimin dodged the weak punch easily and drove his fist into Yanwoo's stomach, hard. Yanwoo doubled over, gasping for air. Jimin grabbed a fistful of his hair and forced his head up. "How many times?" Jimin snarled. "How many times did you put your hands on her?" "Go to—" Yanwoo couldn't finish. Jimin's knee came up, connecting with Yanwoo's ribs. The crack of breaking bone was audible even over the chaos. Yanwoo screamed. "Guards!" someone shouted. "Stop him!" The guards rushed forward, but stopped halfway. Everyone froze. Jimin threw Yanwoo to the ground and followed him down, straddling him. His fists rained down on Yanwoo's face with brutal, methodical precision. Blood sprayed across the white marble floor. Yanwoo's nose shattered under Jimin's knuckles, his cheekbone cracked, his eye socket fractured. "She's not yours." Jimin punctuated each word with another blow. "She was never yours." Yanwoo's arms came up weakly to protect his face, but Jimin just grabbed them and pinned them down with one hand, using the other to keep punching. "She was mine from the moment she confessed to me 16 years ago. Mine when I fell in love with her the next day. Mine every single day since." Another punch. Yanwoo's head bounced off the marble. "And you," Jimin grabbed Yanwoo's throat with one hand, squeezing. "You put your hands on what's mine." Yanwoo's face was unrecognizable now, both eyes swollen shut, nose crushed, lips split, blood everywhere. He made a gurgling sound, barely conscious. "Jimin!" Amaya's voice cut through the red haze. "Stop! You're going to kill him!" Jimin's fist paused mid-swing. He looked over at her, and what she saw in his eyes terrified her. Pure, unfiltered rage, but underneath it, pain. So much pain. "He deserves it," Jimin said rough. "Maybe," Amaya whispered, tears streaming down her face. "But I can't watch you become a murderer because of him." "After what he did to you." "Please." She took a step closer. "Please, Jimin, stop." Something in her voice reached him. Slowly, his fist lowered. He looked down at Yeonwoo's broken, bleeding face. Then he stood, breathing hard. Yeonwoo lay motionless on the floor, barely breathing. Blood pooled around his head. His chest rose and fell in shallow, pained gasps. Jimin turned to face the crowd. Over 100 of Seoul's most powerful people stared back at him in shocked silence. Some looked horrified. Others looked satisfied. A few even looked approving. "Let this be a lesson," Jimin said, his voice carrying across the ballroom. "You don't touch what's mine, ever. And if you can't handle a beating from another man, don't put your hands on a woman." He looked at Kang Dae-hyun. "You wanted to know why I came back? I sure didn't come back for your birthday. I came back because I found out what he'd been doing to her, and he had to pay." Kang Dae-hyun's expression was unreadable. "Guards!" Yeonwoo managed to choke out from the floor, blood bubbling from his lips. "Seize him!" The guards looked at each other. Then one by one, they turned to Jimin and bowed. Every single one of them. "What?" Yeonwoo tried to lift his head, failed. "What is this?" "Loyalty," Jimin said simply. "Real loyalty. Not the kind you buy with threats and fear." He walked over to where Amaya stood, still frozen in shock. "Come on," he said gently, holding out his hand. "We're leaving." She stared at his hand, at the blood coating his knuckles. "My father, if I leave, he'll—" "I don't care what he does." "Jimin, you don't understand." "Then tell me in the car. Please, Maya, just come with me. Let me get you out of here." She looked past him at Yeonwoo's broken body on the floor, at Kang Dae-hyun's cold, calculating expression, at her father standing in the corner, his face pale with shock. Then she looked back at Jimin, at the man who'd just destroyed his brother for her, who'd thrown away whatever was left of his relationship with this family, who was offering her a way out. She took his hand. Relief flooded his face. Without another word, he pulled her close and scooped her up into his arms, bridal style. "I can walk," she started. "I know." He carried her toward the exit, his stride confident despite the blood and violence he'd just committed. People stepped aside. Some bowed their heads as he passed. "Boss," a guard murmured. As they reached the door, Kang Dae-hyun's voice rang out. "If you leave with her, you're cut off, completely. No resources, no protection, nothing." Jimin paused at the threshold. He looked back over his shoulder at the man who'd raised him. "You think I need your protection?" His laugh was cold. He shifted Amaya in his arms, holding her tighter. "Try to stop me," he said, his voice dropping to something deadly. "And see how fast your precious empire turns to ash." Then he turned and walked out, carrying Amaya with him. The doors closed behind them. The threat hung in the air. Even Kang Dae-hyun looked taken aback. This wasn't the Jimin he'd raised. Outside, Tae-sung stood beside a car, the engine already running. Jimin slid into the back seat with Amaya still in his arms. "Let's go." The door closed. The car pulled away from the Kang estate. Amaya sat in Jimin's lap, her mind reeling from everything that had just happened. "You're shaking," Jimin said quietly, his arms tightening around her. "You almost killed him." "I wanted to," he said with no regret. "I still want to." "Jimin, do you have any idea what it did to me? Seeing you like that? Seeing how thin you've gotten? How hollow your eyes look? Seeing his hands on you?" She didn't know what to say. 6 months, he continued, of being away, wondering if you were happy, if you loved him, if I'd lost you forever. And then I hear from Tae-sung, he hits you? "I'm sorry," she whispered. Don't you dare apologize." He cupped her face gently, his bloody hands surprisingly tender. "This isn't your fault. None of it is your fault." Tears spilled down her cheeks as he hugged her tight. Amaya stood under the shower until the water ran cold. She scrubbed her skin until it hurt, trying to wash away the past 6 months, the bruises, the fear, the feeling of Yun-woo's hands on her. When she finally stepped out, wrapped in one of Jimin's oversized towels, she found clothes laid out on the bed. Simple things, sweatpants, a soft t-shirt, nothing like the restrictive dresses Yun-woo had made her wear. She dressed slowly, her body aching from tension she'd been holding for months. When she made her way downstairs, she found Jimin in the kitchen. He'd cleaned the blood off his hands, though his knuckles were split and swollen. He was plating food, rice, soup, grilled fish, simple homemade food. "Sit," he said when he saw her. She sat at the dining table, and he set the plate in front of her. The smell alone made her stomach growl. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten a proper meal. Jimin sat across from her, watching as she took her first bite. "When did you last eat?" he asked quietly. She shrugged, not trusting her voice. "Maya." "This morning, Yun-woo's leftovers." His jaw clenched, but he said nothing, just watched her eat. She managed half the plate before she felt full. Her stomach had shrunk over the months. Jimin stood and came around the table. He reached out, gently removing a strand of hair that had fallen into her face, tucking it behind her ear. The gesture was so tender it made her almost want to cry. "You're safe now," he said softly. "Am I?" She looked up at him. "My father." "Let me worry about your father." Before she could respond, there was a knock at the door. Tae-sung entered, a folder in his hands. "Boss, sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this." Jimin took the folder. "What is it?" "We broke into Gerald Grayson's safe tonight, while everyone was at the party." Tae-sung glanced at Amaya. "Found some interesting documents." Amaya's blood ran cold. Jimin opened the folder and went still. She watched his expression change as he read. Confusion, understanding, then fury. "DNA tests," Jimin said quietly, looking at her. "Birth certificates, medical records, all proving I'm not Kang Dae-hyun's biological son." The room went silent. "You married him? This is why you married him." It wasn't a question. Amaya's throat closed up. She couldn't speak, could only nod. "Tell me," Jimin said gently, setting the folder down and kneeling in front of her chair. "Tell me everything." So she did. The words came pouring out about her father's visit a week before the wedding, the manila folder, the threat to release the information if she didn't marry him. "He said if it came out, you'd lose everything," she whispered. "Your position, your resources, your protection. He said when someone that powerful falls, their enemies strike. I couldn't. I couldn't let that happen to you. Jimin's hands gripped her knees tightly. So I married him, she continued, tears starting to fall. I thought I could endure it. It was just a marriage, right? I didn't have to love him. I just had to protect you. She told him about Yeonwoo's jealousy, how he'd specifically chosen her to hurt Jimin, how he knew about her feelings. The first night after the wedding, he showed me who he really was, she said, her voice breaking, and it got worse from there. She told him everything, the hitting, Yeri moving in, being treated like a servant, the humiliation, the fear. And my father, her voice cracked. When I called him begging for help, he told me to stay put, said I wasn't the first woman to get hit by her husband, said if I didn't stay, your life would go down the drain. By the time she finished, she was sobbing too. Jimin had tears running down his face too. He stood and pulled her up into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. I'm so sorry, he whispered into her hair. I'm so sorry I wasn't there, that I didn't see it, that I let him hurt you. It's not your fault. It is. He pulled back to look at her, his hands cupping her face. If I'd just been honest 16 years ago, if I'd told you the truth about how I felt. What truth? That I've loved you since the day after your confession. His voice was rough with emotion. Maya, you have no idea how many times I've replayed that moment, wishing I could go back and do it differently. Her breath caught. You loved me? I've loved you every single day since you were 16 years old. His thumbs wiped away her tears. When you walked up to me in that courtyard and said you liked me, I panicked. I was 18 and stupid, and I said the worst possible thing. But the moment you ran away, I realized what I'd lost. Then why didn't you? I tried. God, I tried so many times. He smiled sadly. About a year after your confession, I came to your house. I wanted to apologize properly, explain what really happened, but your father met me at the door. Amaya's eyes widened. What? He told me if I ever came near you, there would be consequences. I thought he was just being a protective father. Jimin's expression darkened. Now I know he was already planning to use you. I didn't know, she whispered. He never told me you came. Of course he didn't. Jimin pulled her close again. He needed you to believe I didn't care. Made it easier to control you later. They stood there for a long moment, just holding each other. Finally, Jimin spoke. I've known I wasn't Daehyun's biological son for over a year now. Amaya stared at him. What? I suspected for a while. I never fit with them, you know. So I had my own DNA tested about a year and a half ago. Found out the truth. But my father said... Your father manipulated you. Jimin's voice was gentle. Yes, if this information came out, it would have caused problems. But Maya, I was already planning to walk away. I'd built my own businesses outside the Kong Empire. I had resources, money, protection. I wasn't as vulnerable as he made you believe. But your position? I never wanted it. He cupped her face. I only stayed because I thought I could change things from the inside, but the Kongs are rotten to the core. There's no saving them. She felt like the ground was shifting beneath her. So all of this, the marriage, the abuse, everything, it was for nothing? No. He pulled her closer. It was because you loved me. Because you were willing to sacrifice everything to protect me, and it wasn't for nothing. But if I just told you... Your father threatened to release it immediately if I found out, didn't he? She nodded. Then you were in an impossible situation. You did what you thought you had to do. He pressed his forehead to hers. But Maya, even if this had come out, I would have survived. I've been preparing for months to bring the entire Kang Empire down. This information? It would have just made it easier. Before she could respond, he kissed her. It wasn't like she'd imagined their first kiss would be. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was desperate, claiming, full of 16 years of longing and regret and love. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he whispered. "I should have said it 16 years ago, but I'm saying it now. I love you, Amaya Grayson." "I love you, too," she said through fresh tears. "I've always loved you." He kissed her again, softer this time. "Come on," he said, taking her hand. "You need rest." He led her upstairs to his bedroom, a simple space with a large bed. She started to say she'd take the guest room, but he shook his head. "Stay," he said simply. "Just stay with me, please." So she did. They lay down together, and he wrapped his arms around her. Amaya pressed her face into his chest, listening to his heartbeat, and let herself relax. "Sleep," he murmured, his fingers running through her hair. "I've got you." And finally, she did. She fell asleep in his arms, knowing that whatever came next, she wouldn't have to face it alone. Amaya woke to sunlight streaming through the windows. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she felt the warmth beside her, the steady rise and fall of breathing. G-Man. She turned her head to look at him. He was still asleep, his face peaceful in a way she'd never seen before. The anger and tension from last night were gone, leaving just the man she'd loved for 16 years. She started to slip out of bed quietly, but his arm tightened around her waist. "Don't go," he mumbled, eyes still closed. "I was just 5 more minutes." She smiled and settled back against him. Those 5 minutes turned into 10, then 20. Neither of them wanted to move. Finally, G-Min's phone buzzed on the nightstand. He went completely still. "What?" Amaya asked, sitting up. "What's wrong?" He handed her the phone without a word. The news headline read, "Former Kang heir, not biological son. DNA evidence surfaces." Amaya's breath caught. No, my father wouldn't." "He already did." G-Men's voice was eerily calm. He scrolled through the article. Released this morning, probably right after he found out his safe had been broken into. "G-Men, I'm so sorry." "Don't be." He set the phone aside and turned to her. "This doesn't change anything." "How can you say that? Your reputation, your businesses are all legitimate and in my name, not the Kang name." He cupped her face gently. "Maya, I told you I've been preparing for this. My companies are separate from the Kang Empire. This news, it just confirms what I've known for over a year." "But people will talk. Let them." He kissed her forehead. "I don't care what they say. All I care about is you." She wanted to believe him, but the panic wouldn't stop clawing at her chest. He seemed to sense it. "Come on," he said, getting out of bed and pulling her with him. "Freshen up and get dressed. We're leaving." "Leaving? Where?" "Anywhere. Everywhere. Nowhere." He smiled. "Does it matter?" An hour later, they were on the road. G-Man drove with the windows down, his hair blowing in the wind. He'd changed into jeans and a simple black t-shirt, looking nothing like the crime boss who'd beaten his brother senseless last night. He looked free. Amaya sat in the passenger seat, watching the city disappear behind them. "Where are we going?" she asked. "I don't know yet." He glanced at her, grinning. "You pick. Wherever you want to stop, we stop." So she did. She directed him down random roads, through small towns, past rice fields and mountains. No destination, no plan, just driving. Around midday, they stopped at a small roadside restaurant. They ate bibimbap and laughed about nothing, discussed like the storm was waiting ahead. For a few hours, they were just two people falling in love. In the afternoon, G-Men pulled off at an exit. "Where are we going?" Amaya asked. "You'll see." He drove for another 15 minutes, then pulled into a parking lot. Amaya looked up at the building and her breath caught. The museum was magnificent, sleek glass and steel, one of the most prestigious art museums in the country, the kind of place she'd only dreamed about visiting. "Jimin, this is—" "Come on," he said, already getting out of the car. Inside, it was even stunning. World-class contemporary art filled the galleries, pieces she'd only seen in books and magazines, works that made her heart ache with their beauty. Amaya wandered through the galleries, lost in the colors and brushstrokes. She'd forgotten how much she loved this, how much she'd given up. Jimin followed a few steps behind, watching her instead of the art. "Why are you staring at me?" She caught him. "Because you're more beautiful than anything in here." She blushed. "That's cheesy." "Doesn't make it less true." He came up behind her as she studied a large abstract painting, swirls of blue and gold. She leaned back against him and they stood there in comfortable silence. A suspicion was forming in her mind. The road trip to nowhere, now this museum, exactly the kind of place she'd written about in her old journal. But she didn't say anything. They found a small hotel near the ocean as the sun began to set. Nothing fancy, just a clean room with a view of the water. They had dinner at a restaurant down the street. Simple food, quiet conversation. But Amaya couldn't fully relax. The news about Jimin's parentage kept playing in her mind. What it meant, what would happen next. "Hey," Jimin said, reaching across the table to take her hand. "Where'd you go?" "I'm here." "No, you're not. You're worrying again." "I can't help it." "Yes, you can." He squeezed her hand. "Whatever happens, we'll be fine. I promise." She wanted to believe him. Tried to. But the fear wouldn't quite let go. Back at the hotel, they lay in bed together, the sound of waves drifting through the open window. Jimin held her close, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her arm. "Get some sleep," he murmured. "Tomorrow's gonna be a good day." "How do you know?" "Because I'm spending it with you." She smiled despite herself and closed her eyes. Eventually, she drifted off, safe in his arms. The next morning, Jimin woke her before sunrise. "Come on," he whispered. "There's something I want to show you." Still half asleep, she let him lead her outside to the car. They drove for 20 minutes in the pre-dawn darkness, then pulled off at a small mountain trail. "Are we hiking?" Amaya asked, looking down at her sneakers. "Just a little. It's not far." The climb took about 15 minutes. Nothing too strenuous. At the top, they found a small clearing overlooking the ocean. The horizon was just beginning to lighten, deep purple fading to pink. "Sit," Jimin said, spreading out the blanket he'd brought. They sat together, his arm around her shoulders, and watched the sky change colors. Pink turned to orange, orange to gold. Then the sun broke free of the horizon, spilling light across the water. "It's beautiful," Amaya whispered. "Yeah." But when she looked over, Jimin was watching her, not the sunrise. "It is." She felt her cheeks warm. "You read my bucket list, didn't you?" He smiled. "Maybe." "When?" "A few years ago. I came to apologize, again, and you weren't home. Your mom let me wait in your room." He looked a little guilty. "I'm sorry, but I'm glad I did. I've been planning this for years, all the things you wrote about wanting to do." "Jimin." "The art museum yesterday. This sunrise today. All of it was from your list." Her throat tightened. "You remembered." "I remember everything about you, Maya." He pulled out his phone. "Come on, let's take some pictures." So they did. Photos of the sunrise. Photos of her smiling. Photos of them together. Proof that this moment was real. They spent the rest of the day by the ocean, walking along the beach, sitting in the sand, talking about everything and nothing. Jimin told her stories from his time in America, about the businesses he'd built, the life he'd tried to create away from the Kang Empire. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the waves roll in. That night, they returned home. Amaya showered and came out to find Jimin sitting on the bed, looking at something on his phone. "What are you looking at?" she asked. "Pictures from today." He showed her. Look how happy you are here." She did look happy, really happy. "Jimin," she said softly, "can I ask you something?" "Anything." She sat beside him on the bed, her heart pounding. "Make love to me." He went very still. "Maya." "Please." She touched his face. "I know things are uncertain. I know we don't know what tomorrow brings. I want this. I want you, even if it's just for tonight." "Are you sure?" His voice was rough. "After everything Yeonwoo did." "You're not him." She leaned closer. "You're nothing like him, and I want this. I want you." He searched her eyes for a long moment. Then he kissed her. Gentle at first, then deeper. His hands were careful, reverent, asking permission with every touch. And she gave it, losing herself in him, in this moment they'd both waited 16 years for. Later, they lay tangled together in the sheets. "I love you," she whispered against his chest. "I love you too." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "No matter what happens, remember that, okay?" "Okay." She felt safe, complete, for the first time in as long as she could remember. Tomorrow could wait. Tonight, she had everything she needed. The next day, Amaya woke to an empty bed. For a moment, panic seized her. Had he left? Had last night been some kind of goodbye? She sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. "Jimin!" No answer. She got dressed quickly and went downstairs. The house was quiet. Too quiet. "Jimin!" She called again. The front door opened and he walked in, carrying a folder and 2 coffees. Relief flooded through her. "Sorry," he said, handing her a coffee. "Didn't mean to scare you. Had to take care of something." "Where did you go?" "Meeting with my lawyer." He set the folder on the dining table. "Got you something." She opened the folder and her breath caught. "Divorce papers, signed by Yeonwoo. How did you—" "Blackmail." Jimin said it without shame. "I have evidence of things he's done that even Kang Dae-hyun doesn't know about. Things that would get him life in prison instead of whatever reduced sentence his lawyers manage. He signed in exchange for me keeping quiet. So I'm free." He smiled. "All you have to do is sign, and you're officially divorced." She stared at the papers, hardly believing it. "There's something else I need to tell you," Jimin said, his voice growing serious. "Something I should have told you before last night." Her stomach dropped. "What?" He sat down across from her, his expression pained. "I've known I wasn't a Kong for over a year. But that's not the whole story. The Kongs didn't just raise me. They murdered my real parents." Amaya's hand flew to her mouth. "My father, my real father, ran a smaller operation, had territory the Kongs wanted. So Kang Dae-hyun killed him and my mother, then took me in and raised me as his own." Jimin's voice was flat, emotionless. "I found out about 1.5 years ago, and I've been planning to destroy them ever since." "Jimin!" "But I've been working with federal authorities for over a year, building a case, gathering evidence, everything I needed to bring down the entire empire." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you anywhere near it when everything exploded." He reached across the table for her hand. "That's why I tried to stop your wedding. I knew the arrests were coming. I knew it was all about to come crashing down, and I couldn't stand the thought of you being caught in the blast radius." "But I went back. I married him anyway." "And I spent 6 months in hell thinking I'd lost you." His grip tightened. "But Maya, I need you to understand, I was always planning to bring them down. The wedding sabotage, forfeiting my position, all of it was to get you away from them before the arrests happened." "When are they—" His gaze suddenly turned toward the television in the living room. Amaya followed the direction of his gaze. Tae-sung stood by the remote, his expression grim. On screen, a news anchor was speaking. In a stunning development, major arrests have been made in the Kong enterprise. Gerald Grayson, longtime fixer for the organization, was taken into custody early this morning, along with Kong Dae-hyun and his son, Kong Yeon-woo. Footage played of her father being led away in handcuffs, then Kong Dae-hyun, then Yeon-woo, his face still bruised and swollen by Jimin's beating. Charges include racketeering, extortion, conspiracy, murder, and in Yeon-woo Kong's case, domestic violence. Amaya's hand covered her mouth. They moved fast, Jimin said quietly. You knew, Amaya said, turning to him. You knew this was happening today. I triggered it early, when I saw what Yeon-woo had done to you. His jaw clenched. I wasn't going to let him have one more day. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Heavy. Official. Amaya's blood ran cold. Tae-sung moved to answer it, and federal agents stepped inside. Kong Jimin, the lead agent said, showing his badge. We need you to come with us. I know. Jimin stood calmly, his hands already out. No. Amaya rushed forward, grabbing his arm. You were helping them. You gave them everything. Ma'am, please step back, another agent said. Jimin, tell them. He turned to her, his expression gentle. It's okay, Maya. It's not okay. Tears were already streaming down her face. They can't arrest you. You were cooperating. His voice was quiet but firm. I've done things, Maya. Real things that deserve punishment. The cooperation just means I get 5 years instead of 20 or more. 5 years? Jimin, I just got you back. I know, but it's only 5 years. We've already wasted 16. What's 5 more? Don't joke. I'm not joking. He kissed her forehead. 5 years and then I'm yours. Forever. The agents moved forward with handcuffs. Wait, Amaya said desperately. Please, just 1 more minute. The lead agent looked at his watch, then nodded. 1 minute. Amaya threw her arms around Jimin, holding him as tight as she could. I can't do this without you, she whispered against his chest. You can. You're the strongest person I know. He held her just as tight. Everything I have is yours now. My businesses, my properties, all of it. Tae-sung will help you. You can run them or sell them, whatever you want. I don't want your businesses. I want you. You'll have me, I promise. He pulled back to look at her. You also don't have to wait for me. She wanted to scream, to rage at the unfairness. Instead, she looked into his eyes and saw the man who'd loved her for 16 years, who'd sacrificed everything for her, who'd beaten his brother senseless and walked away from an empire just to save her. Don't get me angry right now, she whispered. I'll wait as long as it takes. Relief flooded his face. I love you. I love you too. He kissed her one last time, soft and sweet and full of promise. Then he stepped back and held out his hands for the cuffs. The agents secured them around his wrists. Time to go, one of them said. As they led him toward the door, Jimin looked back at her. Take good care of yourself. Amaya stood in the doorway, watching the car pull away, her whole body shaking. Tae-sung appeared at her side. He left you everything, you know, his businesses, his accounts, his properties, all in your name. I don't care about any of that, she said, her voice breaking. I know, but it's what he wanted. Tae-sung handed her a tissue. If you want to run things, I'll help you. If you want to sell everything and leave, that's fine too. It's your choice now. Amaya wiped her eyes and looked around at the house, at the life Jimin had built. I'm not going anywhere, she said quietly. Tae-sung smiled. He thought you'd say that. 3 months after Jimin's arrest, Amaya sat in the visiting room of the federal prison, her hands clasped on the metal table. She'd been here every week since he'd been sentenced, every single week. The door opened, and Jimin walked in, wearing prison oranges. He looked different, leaner, harder. But his smile when he saw her was exactly the same. "Hey, Maya," he said, sitting down across from her. "Hey." They had 30 minutes, never enough time. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "Good. Taesung's been helping. We just closed a deal with that tech company in Singapore." "Good, but that's not what I meant." He reached across the table and took her hand. "How are you?" She took a breath. This was it. "I'm pregnant." Jimin went completely still. His eyes widened. "What?" 3 months gone. She placed her free hand on her still flat stomach. From that night. For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then tears started running down his face. "I'm going to be a father," he whispered. "Yes." "And I'm not going to be there," his voice broke. "I'm not going to be there when you give birth, when our baby is born. Hey," she squeezed his hand. "We'll figure it out. I'll bring the baby to visit, and I'll try to find a way for you to watch the delivery. A video call or something. I don't know how yet, but I'll find a way." He stood up suddenly and came around the table. The guards started to move forward, but Jimin just knelt beside her chair and pressed his face against her stomach. "I'm so sorry, I can't be there," he whispered. She ran her fingers through his hair. "You'll meet our baby soon enough, and when you get out, we'll be waiting." He looked up at her, tears still streaming. "I love you so much." "I love you too." 5 years later, Amaya stood outside the federal prison, her hand holding a much smaller one. "Is Daddy coming soon?" the little boy asked, looking up at her with eyes exactly like Jimin's. "Very soon, baby," she said, her heart pounding. She'd kept her promise, visited every week for 5 years, brought their son, Ji-woo, as soon as he was old enough. She'd even managed to arrange a video call for the birth, watching through tears as Jimin cried watching their son being born. 5 years of raising their child alone. 5 years of running Jimin's businesses. 5 years of waiting. But today was the day. The prison doors opened, and there he was. Jimin walked out into the sunlight carrying a small bag of his belongings. His eyes scanned the area, searching, then found them. His whole face lit up. "Daddy!" Ji-woo shouted, and broke away from Amaya's hand. The little boy ran toward his father as fast as his 4-year-old legs could carry him. Jimin dropped his bag and fell to his knees, catching his son in his arms. "Ji-woo! Oh my God, you got so big." "I'm 4 now," the announcement proudly. "Mommy says you're coming home." "I am. I'm coming home." Jimin looked up at Amaya, tears streaming down his face. She walked over slowly, her own eyes wet. When she reached them, Jimin stood, lifting Ji-woo onto his hip. Then he pulled her close with his free arm, holding both of them tight. "I'm home. I'm finally home." "Welcome back," she said, standing on her toes to kiss him. Ji-woo giggled. "Ew!" They both laughed through their tears. Jimin set their son down and took Amaya's face in his hands. He kissed her properly then, deep and loving and full of promises kept. When they broke apart, Ji-woo was tugging on Jimin's pant leg. "Daddy, can we go get ice cream now? Mommy promised." Jimin looked down at his son, then up at Amaya, then around at the world he'd been locked away from. "Yeah," he said, his voice full of wonder. "Yeah, we can get ice cream." He took Ji-woo's hand in one hand, Amaya's in the other, and together, finally whole, finally free, finally a family, they walked away from the prison toward their future. A future built on love that had survived 16 years of mistakes, 6 months of hell, and 5 years of separation. A future that was finally theirs. Thank you so much for listening till the end. If this story touched you, please share it with someone who loves emotional romance, and subscribe for more stories like this.